Welcome everyone to the L7C podcast, My Hero Academia edition. Today we are going to be giving a semi-spoiler-free, semi-spoilery reviews of the first 4 episodes of My Hero Academia Season 5. And today we have the My Hero Academia enthusiast, Andrea. How are you doing today, ma'am?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. We just wrapped up watching the latest episode of My Hero Academia that came out today. And as I said, we're going to be going over the episodes, giving our thoughts on some of them. But before that, the trailer for the third My Hero Academia movie actually came out the same day as the first new episode of My Hero Academia Season 5. And have you been able to see pictures of the trailer, things like that?
Yes, I have. And I did watch the trailer. I just don't remember everything bit by bit. But the thing that stood out to me the most was the whole idea of, Midoriya's hero name is blasted in the news as being wanted for, I believe, international crimes.
Mass murder.
Yes. So how do we get there? And that's my biggest question. And I don't think we get any other major clues in the trailer as of right now as to how that happens. But, I was already excited for the movie, and that just piques my interest even more, because how do we get from Deku, intro, this is how he became the greatest hero of all time, and now we have this movie where he's literally a wanted criminal villain.
Yeah, and they posted it on their version of CNN. Basically, My Hero Academia's Anderson Cooper was reporting that Deku, Izuku Midoriya, aka Deku, was wanted for mass murder, and it's also the first time that we actually see physically in My Hero a hero's real name posted with their hero name. So maybe that's because once you're wanted for mass murder, your secret identity or whatever, all bets are off. Because that's the first time we've ever seen that.
Right.
And we also saw, I do remember, because this movie is supposed to be centered around Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto Todoroki, the 3 Musketeers. They had the poster where they're all 3 doing in the pose, and John Cena's commented how Deku's doing his pose, and My Hero and John Cena now have a love fest going on, so that's awesome to have a star of his caliber promoting My Hero. And yeah, this movie's coming out in the summer in Japan. We don't have a English release date, but I would assume maybe February 2022, because that's when the second movie came out, and the past 2 movies have been canon, so we're going to see how this movie is canon. And yeah, our main character is wanted for mass murder, and that picture has been memed out the wazoo, and
yep.
I'm really excited about it, because if he has to try and stop a villain who we don't know who it is, we didn't get any glimpses,
nope.
And he has to stop a villain and clear his name,
right?
That's going to be crazy. And from just normal life perspective, if he's wanted for mass murder, that means obviously does he get kicked out of UA? Because if he's getting accused, do they kick him out until proven innocent? What happens with his mom? Because at the end of the 3rd season, his biggest thing was not having his mom worried.
Right.
But if her mom comes home from a hard day's work, kicks her feet up, switches into her comfy pants, turns on the news, and sees her son's wanted for mass murder, what does that do to the relationship of his mom and him going forward? And hell, maybe by the grace of the good Lord, his dad is somewhere and he turns on the TV and says his son is wanted for mass murder. Maybe he gets a cameo, because that's a big deal if you're going to be on CNN of My Hero. That means everyone sees that you're wanted for mass murder.
I hadn't thought about the possibility of his dad seeing it, but I honestly, my feelings with Deku's dad is I don't think he's going to make any sort of cameo until towards the very, very end of everything. Mm-hmm. But I do see the point that his dad probably will see that, and I wonder if there will be any sort of contact before. We won't see him at all, but maybe his mom will get a letter in the mail, and maybe mom is I'm going to protect Deku from, this absentee dad and not give it to him, and then later changes her mind or finds it. There's a lot of, so much going on. And then My question is, though, is if Deku's wanted for mass murder, also in the trailer, we see him, Bakugo, and Todoroki suited up in their new hero costumes, which each have very thick, big black hoods. So I'm wondering if, like, the hero society, the other heroes, know already that he's innocent, and they're all trying to hide him hide him from the public and from the police.
How about if I flip that? They have those hoods because the Hero Society sends people to go get him. Like, what if they're like... Because with Deku, he would turn himself in if one of his friends were endangered or things like that. I mean, and the heroes would know that. And then we saw Endeavor. What if it's Endeavor and Hawks who have to go and arrest Deku? And then they find out that Deku's not, they find out he's not the one who did it. Or like if Class 1A, they're like, you have to go get your guy. Or if the other heroes, or if like the big three gets involved, things like that, or Gran Torino. I would almost liken it to a point, kind of, depending on how it goes, like Captain America, the Winter Soldier, where Captain America is wanted for knowledge of the death of Nick Fury, and Pierce is after him. He turns S.H.I.E.L.D. against Cap, and it's only Cap and Black Widow, and then they get Falcon. So it's almost like My Hero, and then they find out that, he wasn't the person, it was the person who sent people after Captain America. That's the only thing I'm thinking of, because it's wild. I mean, there could be a lot of different things. I mean, his mentors and all be like, I'm sorry, kid, I gotta bring you in, and he's resisting arrest, which could add charges, and then they'll be like, what would get Deku to come back? He's like, well, I mean, we could take his mom in, and then he comes back. Like, it's... What are the League of Villains? We'll see what they're doing in the movies.
That's true, yep.
Because we don't know who did it. Like, and we get that he's the main character, but why would you frame Midoriya for mass murder? His abilities haven't shown that to kill people. So it's like, there has to be a reason why he was picked. And to be honest, the trailer almost overshadowed the first episode of season 5. Because that's when most people were memeing.
For sure.
Memeing about. But yeah, we're excited. And then when more stuff comes out, we'll let y'all know. But first episode came out that day. It was March 27th, if I remember. And My Hero follows the thing where every first episode is just a recap. A recap of the season. So we saw the stuff about... You even forget the Endeavor stuff happened because for the raid, the fight against Overhaul, Eri, all of them. Was there anything in particular that was interesting to you in the recap, or just like, wow, season 4 was crazy? What are they about to do in season 5? Because that's how I felt watching the recap.
That's how I felt about it too. I also personally just felt a little let down because as much as, we know the first episode of a new season is a recap, I was hoping there was going to be a little bit more. We
saw Endeavor in hospital.
That's true. We did get to see kind of where Endeavor ended up after his fight with the Nomu. But I was hoping for a little bit more jam-packed in a 20-minute episode than, can be allotted. So that was just a personal mistake on my end. But overall, it was a very well-done recap episode.
Right. Second episode, we get into some new stuff, some tidbits. We see Endeavor and Hawks recuperating from the fight with the Nomu, and then we see Dabi coming in there, doing a circle of blue flame, saying he wants to talk. Endeavor and Hawks are both really down for the count. They really can't fight a guy like him. And then we get a surprise, finally making her, I guess, semi-action debut because she did a big kick. We had the rabbit hero, Mirko? Is that how you say her name?
I think it's Mirko,
Mirko, the rabbit hero, the number 5 rated hero.
Yes.
We never heard of her until the end of season 4, and she's number 5, but that's okay. She came in here raring for a fight, and that wasn't even the biggest thing I took away, because I know a lot of people love her and her appearance and her attitude. The biggest thing I took away was Dabi leaving and saying Endeavor's full name.
Yep.
What did you think of that?
Because when Endeavor sees Dabi, he kind of says, oh, the League of Villains, Dabi, that's how he sees him, and with Dabi turning away, being like, okay, we'll talk some other time, saying Endeavor, Enji Todoroki.
He said, don't die, Enji.
That's right. He did say, don't die, and good luck staying number 1. And for me, I'm just wondering why, like, Mirko and Hawks, and, I mean, Endeavor kind of is, like, makes a comment about how this is only the beginning of kind of this long struggle. For me, seeing Dobby drop Endeavor's full name, nobody else seemed very shocked by that. Where we've talked about before, how it's like, okay, do these, heroes have their full names out there that the general public knows? I was under the impression that that's a no. So for Dobby to say Endeavor's full name and nobody kind of like thinks twice about it or makes a comment about it,
that was probably bad writing on their part. The character's not like fully gravitating towards that moment, because Endeavor said it's not over, and then he was reflecting on that, and I was just thinking too, yeah, it's a huge deal, because we were just previewing the movie, how they just had Midoriya's full name out there and his hero name. And even if you think of All Might, who was ever called him Toshinori? Gran Torino, because he knows him,
right?
And he helped train him. And I don't recall him being called Toshinori during the fight against All for One. So it's like, first names are like, I mean, your real name's just out of there, unless, obviously, if you go to the school with the people, you know their names and all of that. But it's like, once you get out and you're a hero, you're known as your hero identity. That's it. Even Shoto, in 5 seasons, has never called Endeavor by his name. He's never, so even when the others showed up, he's never called Endeavor by his name. And then, speaking on Endeavor, we see him come home. His daughter is trying to celebrate his big first victory as the #1 hero. And then Natsu, who I believe is the oldest of the 3. I think he's the one who's in college. I'm pretty sure.
Of the 3 of them, I think he's the oldest, but Toya was the firstborn, I'm pretty sure.
So he's not having it. And he's like, I can't just forgive you for all the stuff that you've done, things like that. And Shoto, I actually liked what he said. He's like, the hero Endeavor was great. But I agree with my brother, you're not a good dad. And I really like that dichotomy there. What'd you think?
I absolutely agree with that. Because, I mean, it's Endeavor has this public persona. He is a hero to the public. However, at home, he has been a different person. And it seems like the series is trying to steer towards, like, bringing those 2 faces into one person and having, Endeavor make that change to be a better father figure. Does that erase all of the trauma of the past? Absolutely not. And for me, the thing that stuck out was kind of, you have 3 different siblings who all grew up kind of in this same environment, having different experiences, having different personalities, all now trying to cope with this sudden change in their dad to try to be an actual dad and father figure in 3 different ways. So Natsu, like you said, was very much straight up reject. I cannot forgive you. Like, nothing. No grace. No, you can't just change.
And he had more reasons, too, because, like he said, they were failures to Endeavor. So besides you're beating up on Mom, and Shoto, obviously he has stuff because he's the main family person, but the others, you're beating up on Mom. We come out the womb and you just treat us like trash because we're not mixed. So that's even, I could understand why he would hate Endeavor more than Shoto. And when he said, I just found out my brother's favorite thing was
Soba.
Yeah, Soba is like, because you separated us. And you even see the clip where he's dragging Shoto and he's like, oh, they're basically trash. Like, yeah,
you're in a different world. You're above where they are. And that's why I'm treating you this way. And the way Shoto was treated was not so nice or great either.
It wasn't.
So nobody got the better side of Endeavor at home.
No, except Endeavor. But I think Shoto's thing really, really hit his line about separating the 2, because, I mean, we see it when you're watching TV, like a celebrity or a sports athlete, things of that, who are doing super great things, yada, yada, yada. And then you come, and then something happens at home, and they're terrible. I mean, we see it at places we work. Prime example would be someone like Tiger Woods. When his first incident happened, everyone thought he was perfect.
Yep.
And then when he crashed the first time, and then you find out that Tiger Woods has like 100 and something different women, and he's constantly cheating on his wife with hundreds and hundreds of women, and he has an addiction, and we're just like, whoa. We're like, how do you talk about Tiger Woods, the golfer, and now think about Tiger Woods, the person? Or someone like R. Kelly, who is a musical genius. I mean, Ignition is one of the most played songs at any wedding or things of that function. But then you think about the stuff that he did behind the scenes with the underage women and things like that. And when you talk about R. Kelly, there's people who are like, well, R. Kelly, the musician, is one of the greatest ever. But Robert Kelly, the human, is one of the worst humans ever. And things with like Bill Cosby and all of that stuff. And you even said too, like, that whole dichotomy of what they showed is almost a prime example of like what happens in like a DV home, because you got one family member who was starch. I'm trying to make this work. The sister, the other one's like, I can't do this. The other one's just like, And then you have the dad trying to atone when it's almost too little, too late. All of his kids are almost adults.
Right. And then some people would make the argument that it's never too late to make a change. It's just which side, which ideology you ascribe to, your personality, how you dealt with it growing up as a child, how you're dealing with it now as an adult. Because obviously with Natsu, he's very angry. Very much any feelings that they have about the situation are valid, because those are their feelings about the situation. But you have those that are staunch, like, I could never forget you, deep-seated hate, anger, never gonna let that go. Then you have kind of the more fond response of like, oh, okay, so you're trying to change, that's great, that makes up for everything, and I just want everything to be peaceful and happy and everybody to get along. Then you have others who kind of, Shoto was the one that was kind of, I don't want to say on the fence about his feelings, because he very much separated, this is how I see you in this light as a hero, and this is how I see you in this light as a father. The biggest thing for me that Shoto said was that he knew the power of change in an instant. And for me, my thought process immediately went back to the sports festival with his fight with Midoriya, kind of making him see things differently. And that since that time, his personality, I don't want to say has completely changed, but he's opened up as a person. So Shoto knows that change is possible. However, he also realizes that that doesn't make up for what has happened. So I thought that was really powerful.
I agree. 'Cause I was actually going to bring that up. If Shoto doesn't fight Midoriya in the sports festival, he probably still doesn't use that fire side.
Right.
Because Midoriya is the one who's told him, like, even if it came from your dad, that's your power. Like, so I don't know if they didn't fight, because he would probably still be like, I never used the fire side. And even even after he did against Midoriya, he didn't even use the fire side against Bakugo.
Right, because he was having that internal struggle, because he kind of had that moment with Midoriya, and then he used it, and then he almost essentially regretted it, which is, I don't want to say why he lost the fight against Bakugo, because it would have been interesting to see how things would have played out if he used both sides. Yeah. But, it's one of those things where he had to continue reflecting on himself and what Midoriya had told him and what his life experiences have been to make the kind of permanent decision that yes, it is his quirk and he's going to use it the way he wants to show up Endeavor, not using his quirk to make Endeavor, proud, essentially, that he was doing it. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? He was not using the fire side in defiance to annoy Endeavor, but all that really did was hold Todoroki back, because honestly, he wouldn't be where he is at skill-wise if he would have kept using his eyesight only.
Yeah, because even after Bakugo, I don't know, weeks maybe later, he used fire side against Stain. And then at the end of season 4, when Endeavor showed up to watch Todoroki in the remedial classes, like Todoroki slaps him away, all that stuff. And the last thing on the Endeavor family, because that could be a whole episode in itself, is I like how they memed that kid who was yelling that the guy was fighting. It was so 2021 that the media caught one person and they were memeing the heck out of him, and now he's on shirts and he's famous. Endeavor's like, oh, that kid. And God forbid, I hope Endeavor doesn't use that kid to make him more likable, because I feel like that would make him more unlikable to normal people. The only other part of episode 2 was Midoriya was having that dream that we saw at the end of season 4. And he had the dream of One for All. And he was already quickly analyzing that these were all the previous vessels of them. And that he saw a glimpse of the story between All for One and One for All. And then he found out that the first person for One for All was All for One's little brother.
Mm-hmm.
So he found that out, and then he wakes up. But then in the third episode, you see a little bit of that conversation, and then you see him talking to All Might about it, who All Might's just like, internally he's like, oh, he met the first
wielder.
Like, I didn't get to do that. All I know is what my master told me, because his master was alive telling him this stuff, and Midoriya was witnessing this in his dream. So it's looking like he has a very special connection to the power. What do you think about all that?
I thought that was interesting, especially since... So my first thought with, seeing the memory kind of play out was like, oh, each of the vessels has kind of seen this to understand, like, why this, power struggle exists and how it all started. But then having that conversation, Midoriya having that conversation with All Might, and All Might's like, I never spoke to them as far as I'm aware, and what my master told me, you're the first person. And so my immediate thought was like, oh, because Midoriya, didn't have a quirk. And it's like, that's not true, because All Might technically didn't have a quirk until his predecessor gave him. So I'm just wondering what that, why Midoriya? What makes that special that he gets to, be spoken to by the initial wielder?
And the wielder also talked about end of episode 2 going into episode 3, how Midoriya is only at 20%. So like, I saw that as it's like a kind of a mean girl disgusted, like, you're only at like 20 because there's more to the story, but you can't access more of the story because you're only at 20. Hence why maybe that's why some of his body is shown and some not, because he's only at 20. So that is, and he talked about singularity of the quirk, and All Might was they're trying to figure out what that means. So. Right.
I didn't take the 20% comment to be like, oh, you're only at 20%, more like condescending, more so just like, oh, like, this is all I can show you for now. When you get stronger, you'll learn more. Which frustrates me because it's like, okay, Midoriya, great, you're at 20%, it's season 5, like, bro, you're gonna need to speed this up a little bit for me, because I'm hoping that we get more information sooner, because I just want to know.
I guess the only reason I said that is because I remember when Midoriya and All Might were training, and Midoriya's like, did it take you this long? And then All Might's like, oh no, I was able to use 100%, like that. So even though he didn't talk to the previous people are watching, and they saw All Might, and they're like, well, this guy was able to get 100% super quick and control it and mastered it probably better than anyone. Now we got this guy at snail's pace. Right. So, I mean, in our time, it's been 5 years.
Right. In our time. In their time, it's only been, what, like...
barely a year. They're still, like, their first year.
Right.
So it's like, even though anime time and real life time are whole different things, but it's just like, well, you're at 20%. It's like, but there's more. We also saw other people who are completely blanked out, so he probably won't get access to them until he gets to more power. So that was, I mean, it's interesting because now he knows that the biggest bad guy in the world had a little brother who he apparently loved. And you see normal villain stuff. You help somebody, they pledge their loyalty to you, they spread the word. It was almost like a dark messiah.
It's very much like a cult.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And he's been alive for...
Ever.
So, which is crazy to that fact. And then the other part of episode 3 is we finally get to see their new training, and it's class 1A versus class 1B. On our season 5 preview, I know you talked heavily about wanting to see other characters shine and getting more class 1B. And it looks like that's what's going to happen. So how do you feel about predicting that into existence?
I just feel excited, and I feel bad for reusing that word over and over, because it's just, we already in the like episode 3 and 4, we've seen more of Class 1B in these 2 episodes, I feel like, than we did in the sports festival. At least from my perspective, because we meet more of the characters that we didn't really see highlighted in the sports festival and using their quirk. So it just makes me happy, and it's also interesting to see how they all, have grown and learned how to strategize and utilize each other's quirks to the fullest potential in Class 1B as well as Class 1A.
And before we talk about like how the matchups all go, just last things from episode 3, you see All Might and Deku walking together, and then you see Eraserhead and Shinso walking together. So you see more student-teacher relationships outside of that to help improve them. So that was cool. And the other thing, which I have been harping on forever, actually, that was like one of the first things I told you when I knew you liked my hero, about Deku's mom and All Might's predecessor look very similar, except obviously All Might's predecessor was in significantly better shape. She had one for all. But Deku's mom was in normal shape too until she got depressed about Deku being depressed, and then she got a little overweight. But even All Might has said that, yeah, they look similar. I was like, I'm calling it something. There's no coincidences in anime. There's something there. I don't know if they're distant cousins or relatives of some sort, but there's not a coincidence that Deku's mom looks like All Might's predecessor.
I know. And
for him to acknowledge it.
Right. And the thing going beyond that is we already know that Tomura Shigaraki is All Might's predecessor's grandson. So, like, now we have some sort of maybe potential link with, Deku's mom and Shigaraki's grandmother. So it's like, are they distantly related even? Deku and Shigaraki at that point? Because if they establish some sort of familial link, that means they have to be.
Let me throw this crazy thing at you. Since Shigaraki's grandma was the 7th, because All Might's the 8th and Deku's the 9th.
Yep.
If the 7th, what if Deku's mom and Shigaraki's mom were sisters?
I mean, there's always that possibility. I feel like
or
that
if she was a dad. We don't know which parent was. They could be brother and sister.
That's true. I would hope they'd keep better track if they were something like first cousins at that point, first or second cousins at that point.
Well, this is my hero. I mean, you can't really spoil, but we have a lost Todoroki out there that they've just given a bleep about. So, and
right.
you find out in the manga. So it's just like, how do you not know so and so? So it's like,
that's valid. That's so true.
Because that would be super, super wild. I don't know if that rumor has been going around. There was always the crazy rumors that All for One was Deku's dad, or that the doctor who told Deku that he didn't have a quirk was directly working for All for One, and they actually look the same, but they're different doctors. I had to look it up. But just imagine if they're related. That would be super. And All Might just found him on coincidence, but there's no such thing as coincidence.
Well, right, because I mean, there's a writer, so
that is true. Just like just going back to like Naruto, how Naruto's favorite Hokage was the 4th Hokage, even though he never saw him because he was dead. For some reason, Naruto just liked the 4th, and if you don't have a brain, you could just tell they looked alike. But
literally from day one, literally as a small child, why does that look like Naruto? Why does Naruto not think that looks like him? Why does nobody else mention this? And then we find out why later, but still, it was just like, it was pretty blatant, but it's fine.
So, yeah, so off that, just want to, for the record, we had it first. I'm just saying, because that was one of the first things I said to Andrea when I found out she liked my hero, that they look the same. But going back to Class 1A, Class 1B, we have Shinso, who was in Class 1C, just...
in general studies, yeah.
So I guess normal people like us. But they have quirks, but they don't want to be heroes. He wants to be a hero now, and he actually gives a pretty good speech that he got a round of applause from everyone there about how he's way behind, he wants to catch up, he wants to be a hero, and things of that nature. So then they devise a plan, like how they're going to even the teams, like he'll be on one team and it's 5 people, but he's a handicap because he doesn't have that same experience. You see All Might and Midnight coming up, and All Might talks about how Class 1A has grown because it's been life or death for them since season 1.
Right.
Like, they've always been in fights, especially the core group who've been in, like, the Dekus, the Bakugos, the Shotos. They've been in life or death since season 1. And Class 1B has been able to grow, I don't want to say the right way, but a more proper way through learning all the classwork, doing the homework, they've been able to learn steadily and improve without their lives on the line.
Right. Like normal students.
Normal students. Yeah, that's a good one. Because Class 1A, if they failed, they would die. I mean, Class 1B, at the time, if they failed...
You try again tomorrow.
Yeah. Hence why that one guy hates Class 1A, because they bring a dark cloud. I forget. The guy who
Monoma.
Monoma. And the bad thing is, he's not wrong. Ever since that group has shown up, that school has been under attack. The government has known it. I mean, they had to get moved out of they had to get put in their own special place because they are always under attack. So he wasn't wrong. It's just, he's weird.
He is. I don't like his character, but I will say he cracks me up, and I'm excited to see him use his quirk.
So first fight we get to see, and I was surprised because usually the first fight you try and get a main person in it, but it was Shinso's team, him, Froppy, Denki, Koda. I think they had one more.
And Kirishima.
Oh, yeah, I can't forget about Red Rocket. But the MVP almost of season 4. So you had those 5 going against the people from Class 1B. And you have, I know their quirks, I just don't have their names on hand, but you got them.
So there was Ibarra, who is the female from Class 1B, who has the vine quirk. Her hair turns into vines.
She's weird. Her dialogue is very weird.
It's very spirit-based. Faith-based, I would say faith-based, because she kind of gives off a little bit of a, I don't want to say a nun vibe, because that's not quite right, but like devoted believer vibe.
She almost sounds like a crazier, less cool Conan from Naruto. How Conan would talk about pain as like God and things like that.
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense.
She sounds crazier.
And then there was, and forgive me for saying these wrong, but Kosi Subaraba? I'm not sure.
Is he Scales? Is that Scales?
That is not Scales. He's the one that had the air prison.
Oh, that was very cool. Seeing that, we're like, that's a very useful quirk.
Then the guy with the scale quirk was Hiryu.
He can make scales, and he can shoot them out like bullets.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was very cool.
And then you had Shishida, who is the guy with the beast quirk.
He can go human to beast. And you just saying those quirks and like, especially like the air prisms, literally goes back to what you talked about a couple podcasts ago. There are so many other characters who have cool abilities who get no shine. So now they got almost an episode and a half devoted to them. So I thought that was really, really cool. So then then the goal is to put the other team in prison.
Right.
So it's almost like dodgeball. When you hit someone with a ball, then they have to go to like the jail or whatever you call it. Depending on where you're from, it's called something different. And whoever has the most people in jail loses.
Right.
So what did you think about those characters being the first fight that we saw? And how did you feel about Shinso getting highlighted a lot? And yeah, Class 1A taking it.
Shinso being highlighted was great. I also do like the fact that they highlighted his weaknesses at that point, because before the fight even started, they mentioned that, having him on the team is going to be like a plus in numbers because they have a 5th person against the other team of 4. However, he's also kind of a handicap because he doesn't have the same combat experience, like even the classroom experience that Class 1B has, because general studies learns different things than the hero courses. So and his quirk, mind control, or what's the official name? Brainwashing.
Brainwashing, that's what they call it.
He got a little bit of a like quirk boost in the new tech on his hero costume. I won't say what it is just for spoiler effect, but that really, amplified his, abilities However, at the same time, there were moments where he was like, kind of, yeah, I got this. Like, watch me do this.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was like, actually, whoops, like, wow, I didn't mean to look down on experience. I didn't look down on experience, but it's really becoming apparent to myself that experience plays a lot into this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I appreciate the fact that they highlighted that in the sense that, you know, experience does play a role. You can't just have a broken quirk, get a couple little upgrades, and nobody can touch you.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. And then, I mean, because of the randomization of the teams, I kind of expected, like, the top 3 to not be in the first fight. I really enjoyed seeing the little bit of growth from Kaminari. Because during the episodes, I was commenting about how Kaminari always seems to rely on his teammates.
Oh, he's an idiot.
for the ideas, for the plans, for the strategies. And while knowing your weaknesses, you know, is important, it also just seems like a little bit of dead weight to me. And I made that comment. And then in episode 4, he had a little bit of a moment that made me feel very proud, even though, again, he's not, you know, he's not the strategist. He's not the smartest. But he has learned to be able to come up with ideas in a pinch. Yeah. And that got displayed, and I love that.
Yeah, because, I mean, on our first one, that's the quirk that I would want the most, his, and then it just goes to an idiot, so I feel so bad. But also with him, too, I guess the way they wrote the episode, they took Red Rock out of the way. Mm-hmm. And so the focus wouldn't be on him. Mm-hmm. So, and obviously if you watch season 4, he is heavily featured in season 4, while his people who he's fighting with are not. So it put more focus on him. Kaminari, obviously, Froppy, she got a lot more focus. I mean, she hasn't really been, gosh, I even did a flashback. She hasn't been that relevant since season 1 when it was her, Midoriya, and Mineta trying to escape the villains. Right. So she got some shine too, which was cool. And Koda got a little bit. I mean, I like, to be honest, Koda's ability might be number 2 on my list, because who wouldn't be able to talk to animals and get them to do what you need to do? But yeah, you see that, and then you're just gonna have to watch the fight for yourself to see how it pans out. And then yeah, that was really it for 1 through 4. Obviously, My Hero, we got a new opening and closing. Do you like the new opening and closing?
I do. I think I'm just gonna have to start looking up each individual character's birthdays, because in the closing theme, the very last screen is a birthday cake, and love just the little, you know, details and certain things where a lot of people are seen going through the grocery store picking up items, and one of which it seems to be a package, like wheat, I would guess, of some sort, with Fat Gum's name and face on it. So personally, I would want to try some of those. Like, come on, Fat Gum is not going to endorse or allow bad tasting snacks to have his face and name on it.
I completely agree. No, I like the opening and closing too. I don't like the opening more than Star Maker from season 4. I don't know if that's going to take a lot to be topped. The ending of season 4's one near the end was good too, but I do like the opening and closing. In the opening too, you see Deku talking to Shoto by themselves, so you get to see a little bit more of that relationship. And so far in the opening, we just see Class 1A and Class 1B. We have no main villain yet of the season, not yet. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. And then this season is 25 episodes. So we just reviewed 1 through 4 and the movies. So we're still trying to figure out if we're going to do every 4th or every 3rd, or if there's just some crazy badonkadonk episode that we need to just review immediately. But yeah, I mean, 25 episodes and we're already 1 through 4 done. So that's really it. Andrea, is there anything else that we missed on in My Hero? I feel like one thing that we probably need to talk about more, have its own separate episode, is the Endeavor family dynamic.
Oh, for sure.
Because I felt like we were really getting to something there, but obviously it's not his show. But I feel like we need
thankfully it's not.
But I think we need to have another episode just on Endeavor. Just like a side one outside of the episode review.
Fair enough. I can agree with that.
But anything else you want to say? Did we miss anything?
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the whole Hawks.
I feel like that's too spoilery.
Fair.
But Hawks, number 2, pro-ranked hero. He's dibbing and dabbing in a lot of things. He has his feathers in a whole bunch of things, and you get to see Hawks. He's going to be a big part of season 5. For anyone who watched the second movie, he was in the second movie before we even knew who he was. Right. So he is going to be a big part of season 5, and if I remember, he's super young. I think not even 30. If I remember, he's probably our age.
I mean, they kind of allude to the fact that he's younger, but also like it's anime, so people look older and younger than they are all of the time.
Yeah, well, true. Anime, when you're 15, you're basically 40. You've lived a whole life. If you make it to 16, you literally live to 100 in anime. But yeah, Hawks 1, gotta check it out.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yep.
But with that being said, hit the movie, talked about the episode. No, it's a great time. Great time to be a My Hero fan. More things are coming. It looks like the episodes are every week right now, which is fantastic.
Yep.
It's looking like they're coming out Saturday mornings our time, which I think is around like Saturday nightish or whatever their time. But that's super exciting. Once a week, My Hero episode. And yeah, we'll figure out how we're going to do it. But with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast, My Hero Academia edition. Thank you, Andrea, for being our My Hero enthusiast and breaking these things down with me and going deeper into My Hero convos. And I don't hear that many people going deep into Endeavor's life like that and breaking it down in human terms like we are. But that's really cool. And thank you all for listening. And I did forget, Andrea, this is your first time being on since we hit 1,000 listens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that happened a little ways a bit ago, and I forgot that you haven't been on in a little grip. But yeah, one of your episodes helped the way, and we're over 1,000, and everyone played their part. So I haven't given your kudos on the pod, but kudos to you in playing your part in that.
Thank you. I mean, I can only do as much as you guys support me to do, so I appreciate you guys letting me, voice my opinion and taking the time to let me just spread my love of My Hero and anime in general. Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, now the goal is to try and get to 2,000, and I mean, with episodes from everyone doing good stuff, and obviously your own too, and yeah, we're gonna get it. But with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to L7C podcast. You guys take care. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.